What's going on, everyone? So I was at the airport yesterday waiting for a delayed flight, just sitting at the gate scrolling through my phone trying to pass the time, because they kept pushing back our departure by 30 minutes over and over. The gate area had CNN playing on most of the TVs, but one screen in the corner was showing ESPN. And normally, I wouldn't pay much attention, but then suddenly, this breaking news alert flashed across the screen that made everyone near that TV stop what they were doing and stare. The graphic said something about leaked images showing Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry in a heated argument in the Warriors' locker room, and you could immediately see people pulling out their phones trying to find the footage online or texting their friends about what they were seeing. The SportsCenter anchors came on looking genuinely shocked as they started breaking down these allegedly leaked photos or videos showing Butler and Curry having what appeared to be an extremely intense and emotional confrontation, with body language that looked way beyond just normal competitive disagreement. But then, the segment transitioned into this massive breakdown of the entire NBA trade market landscape, discussing how Ja Morant requesting a trade out of Memphis could create a domino effect that leads to Jaren Jackson Jr. becoming available, and whether the Warriors should pursue Triple J as their answer at the big man position alongside Draymond Green. The way they connected the Butler-Curry locker room drama to the Ja Morant trade request, to how that could shake loose Jaren Jackson Jr., to whether Michael Porter Jr. is still the primary target, to how all these moves are interconnected in this massive trade deadline web, was honestly some of the most comprehensive NBA trade coverage I'd seen from a national broadcast all season. I ended up missing my boarding group being called because I was so locked in watching this segment, and I had to sprint down the jetway at the last second because I couldn't tear myself away from the analysis. Let me walk you through everything that went down on SportsCenter, because the combination of the leaked locker room footage with the intricate breakdown of how multiple superstar trades could domino into each other created this perfect storm of NBA content that had everyone at the gate talking. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we dive in, I need 1 second of your time. That like button right there, hitting it now makes a massive difference in reaching more fans with this content. I know you're ready for the breakdown, but real quick, just smash that like button. It's the single most powerful way to support this channel and help the algorithm push this to thousands more people. Every like matters, so do me that favor right now. So SportsCenter opened with the absolute bombshell breaking news about these leaked images showing Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry in what appeared to be a very heated and intense discussion in the Warriors' locker room. And the anchors were being extremely careful with their language because they didn't have complete audio or full context on what was being said between the two stars. But the body language in the leaked footage was apparently extremely tense and emotional, with both players looking frustrated and animated in ways that went well beyond normal basketball disagreements you see in competitive locker room environments. This obviously raised immediate, massive questions about whether there are genuine chemistry issues brewing in Golden State between Butler, who came over in that blockbuster trade, and Curry, who's been the franchise cornerstone for over a decade. The timing of this leak is particularly significant and troubling because we're in the heart of trade season in the National Basketball Association, which means trade rumors are being thrown in every direction. And the Warriors are certainly not immune to those rumors despite their championship pedigree. The analyst they had on, I could see it was a former NBA executive who'd been part of championship front offices, was saying that while heated discussions between star players happen more often than fans realize and can sometimes be healthy when everyone cares deeply about winning, the fact that this particular exchange between Butler and Curry leaked to the media is extremely concerning. It suggests someone inside the Warriors organization wanted this information public, which means there might be factions within the team or front office that are deeply unhappy with how things are going and are trying to force change through media pressure. So many eyes right now are on Michael Porter Jr., as it's very apparent this Warriors team is in dire need of some changes. But now you add this Butler-Curry locker room drama into the mix, and suddenly everything is on the table. Some rumors today involve not only a superstar in this league requesting a trade out of Memphis, that being Ja Morant, but also his superstar teammate alongside him, Jaren Jackson Jr., potentially being linked to the Warriors in the past, and now being linked to several other teams as this whole situation developed. And this begs the massive question that the analyst wanted to explore. Could Jaren Jackson Jr. be a fit in the Bay Area? Well, it would certainly solve the Warriors' need for a big man issue, and pairing him alongside Draymond Green in the front court would present a ridiculously skilled defensive pairing that would be nearly unstoppable on that end, while also providing some excellent scoring on the offensive side of things. The analyst said they were going to break that all down, talk about the Michael Porter Jr. situation, and give updates on that as it continues to move forward, and then also break down the Ja Morant situation a little bit, because at this point in the year, when these moves start to happen, it creates this massive domino effect throughout the entire league. If Ja Morant leaves Memphis, that means Jaren Jackson Jr. is very likely to leave as well. If he leaves, that means maybe Zach LaVine will be eager to join a certain destination. All these things are connected and interconnected in ways that make it impossible to analyze them in isolation. So, here's the big bombshell that's driving everything else. If you didn't catch it, Ja Morant did officially request a trade out of Memphis, according to multiple reports. And it seems like the Miami Heat are one of the more likely landing spots for Jay, based on multiple reports coming out today that Miami is the exact destination that Jay wants to be in. And this does beg the massive question: if Ja leaves, will his superstar teammate, the guy that's been his partner in crime for many years since they both got to Memphis together, will Jaren Jackson Jr. be out of there as well? And it does seem like there are definitely some real possibilities for that happening based on reporting from Jake Fisher. Multiple teams around the NBA are expected to show interest in Jaren Jackson Jr. ahead of the trade deadline, and the Golden State Warriors are a team who have been linked to Triple J in the past, going back to previous trade deadline cycles. He's a guy who has played very well in the times he's matched up against the Warriors, and it's definitely piqued the interest of not only Mike Dunleavy Jr. in the front office, but Steve Kerr, the rest of the coaching staff, and also a guy like Steph who, why would you not want to play alongside someone like Triple J, who's such a great rebounder and versatile defender? Even though this year his numbers have fallen off a cliff compared to last season, last year he was an all-star and an excellent player, but this year his production has really dipped significantly. The analyst thinks it's one of those domino effect situations where Jaren Jackson Jr. could be the very next domino to fall should the Grizzlies trade Ja Morant. An all-star just a year ago, Jackson is averaging about 19 points per game and about 5-6 rebounds per game this season, which for a guy like him who's supposed to be Mr. Double-Double for his team, has really not provided that scoring punch or that rebounding effort that you want from your starting big man. But the analyst thinks part of it is absolutely because the Memphis Grizzlies have just been not very good this year as a team. Jaren Jackson Jr. has dealt with a couple of injury issues that have limited his availability and effectiveness, so we haven't really seen fully mobile, ready to attack Triple J like we've seen in past seasons when he's been healthy and locked in. And when you look at his overall stats for the year, there are some interesting things to point out. About 18.5 points per game, around the 30-minute mark. As far as playing time goes, 5-6 rebounds, which is down from his career averages. His assist numbers are down, as well as his three-point shooting percentage and his true shooting percentage. Everything has kind of not been exactly what we've seen from Jaren Jackson Jr. in the past few years, but he's still a great defensive player when engaged. You see the steals and blocks numbers still in the green for a guy like Triple J, and really, it's the defensive prowess of a player like him that's what you're noting when you're talking about adding a guy like this to a team like the Warriors. And again, when you look at the advanced stats and shot charts, it becomes very clear what Jaren Jackson Jr. is good at very quickly. Because it's that 6 to 9 foot shot range, right? In that little mid-range area where he absolutely thrives. He's been a pretty good mid-range shooter throughout his career. Struggled a little bit really close to the hoop, as far as being defended by heavier defensive bigs inside the paint, but he does thrive in what he does and has a clear defined role that he executes pretty consistently when healthy and motivated. The analyst thought it was interesting to look at these shooting metrics. Yeah, from outside the three-point line, he's not shooting incredibly well this season. He hasn't even attempted shots from 30 feet out, which obviously isn't his role. Around the 24 to 29-foot range, he's shooting in the mid-30s percentage-wise, so not terrible. And he does provide a little bit of that outside shooting threat that the Warriors can always use, especially in their motion offense system that requires spacing. This gives an even broader, wider look and sort of a visual representation of where he does most of his work. On the floor, again shooting around 40% from the corner three, he is somebody who can knock down that spot-up shot when left open. And it feels like in the times he's played against the Warriors over the years, he has absolutely killed them from three-point range, but obviously he's a 57.6% shooter inside that paint area, and a little bit around the elbow too. That's where he does most of his offensive work, and he is certainly efficient in those areas of the floor. Pair him alongside what Draymond Green has been able to do throughout his Hall of Fame career. Yes, the numbers are down a little bit this season for Draymond. The turnovers and fouls are certainly an issue and something he needs to clean up. And obviously you'd like Draymond to be around a 70-75% free throw shooter rather than where he is now. But again, when you take a larger comprehensive look at this and you look at the defensive capabilities, it's so funny because the graphics team put together this analysis showing defense and discipline as the two categories. The defense has been amazing throughout Draymond's entire career, what he's thrived at and built his legacy on. But discipline is straight in the red across every metric, which is hilarious because discipline is probably the #1 word you'd use to describe what Draymond is heavily lacking in throughout his career. Even though from a pure basketball IQ side of things, he's pretty disciplined as far as being a smart player who makes the right reads. The fouls and turnovers have become a major issue over the last couple years. And then obviously some of the off-court incidents and the on-court antics with officials and opponents make that discipline category even more relevant. The analyst said he's a Draymond Green defender and considers him one of his favorite players to ever put on a Warriors uniform. But it is sort of funny that the discipline categories are in straight red across the board. That probably makes sense for a guy like Draymond when you think about his entire career trajectory and the incidents we've seen. Then they transitioned to discussing the Milwaukee Bucks because there have been so many conversations around Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard, with the Bucks even at one point being linked to potential blockbuster trade. But the Bucks have legitimately serious interest in trading for either Ja Morant or Zach LaVine, according to multiple reports. With Giannis backing off of his previous stance of potentially seeking a trade out of Milwaukee, it does seem like Giannis is committed to being in Milwaukee for now. So they're star hunting once again, trying to win immediately. Same thing they tried to do when they traded for Damian Lillard. They want to pair somebody alongside Giannis that's going to be able to give that explosive scoring punch and be a legitimate superstar running mate, because Chris Middleton and some of those other complementary guys they've brought in really haven't panned out to be the players they were expecting them to be. So the analyst wasn't surprised by these reports, and the reason he brought this up specifically is because, again, this just gets the whole trade deadline ball rolling in motion. Ja Morant leaves Memphis, and all of a sudden Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't have a whole lot of interest in being in Memphis, where tickets at home games sell for about $6. And the fan base just isn't really what it even was back in that 2022 season when those Warriors-Grizzlies playoff series were such intense battles. This Grizzlies team just really doesn't have a whole lot of fan support anymore, as well as young players who are going to elevate them to the next championship contention level. Memphis just isn't really going anywhere as currently constructed. So it would make complete sense for both Jaren Jackson Jr. and Jay Morant to want out of Memphis and to pursue winning situations elsewhere. The Zach LaVine deal potentially happening would trigger even more moves. All of a sudden, you start looking at major multi-team deals, and the analyst wanted to show something a little ambitious and creative. He acknowledged this would be difficult to make happen, and there are a lot of moving parts, and even when you see trades put into these trade machine websites, some of the financial aspects don't actually work out perfectly. But just as a hypothetical look at maybe what could happen in a massive multi-team scenario, for the Grizzlies in this situation, they'd be giving up both Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. And in return, they'd be getting back 5 first-round picks total. One wasn't shown in the graphic. Derrick Rose, Jonathan Kuminga, Malik Monk, Brandon Podziemski, Nick Claxton, and Gui Santos. If they were to go 3-team or even larger and ditch off both their franchise cornerstones, they'd try to get a package back like this that obviously changes the complete trajectory of their team, their season, and their franchise and organization moving forward for the next decade. The analyst would be surprised if something exactly like this happened, but it's fun to take a look at these possibilities to see that the Warriors in this scenario would be getting rid of Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and Buddy Hield, while getting back Jaren Jackson Jr. and Keon Ellis. Obviously, dishing off those 2 first-round picks would hurt the future flexibility. But at the end of the day, this is a move the analyst said he would pull the trigger on, especially because he feels like it elevates the Warriors to another legitimate championship contention level, especially with how Jaren Jackson Jr. and Draymond Green would be able to function as a dynamic duo in the front court on both ends of the floor. Then they got into some updates on the Michael Porter Jr. situation, because he's definitely someone Golden State is seriously looking at as their primary target. Brooklyn doesn't like Jonathan Kuminga a whole lot, according to reporting, and if they really wanted him, they would have thrown him an offer sheet or gotten involved in a sign and trade during the summer when he was restricted free agent. It seems like if this deal were really going to come to fruition as a straight Warriors-Nets swap, Brooklyn would have bit a little bit earlier and shown more interest. So the Warriors would probably have to facilitate a 3-team deal to make Michael Porter Jr. happen. Again, this is coming from Jake Fisher's reporting, and this sort of just reinforces the beliefs about what everyone thought this deal was going to look like eventually. The analyst does think it's going to happen at some point and hopes that MPJ becomes a Golden State Warrior before the deadline. But it seems like some of this stuff is probably going to have to develop into a 3 to 5 team mega deal involving multiple franchises. And the reason that the Ja Morant stuff happening and the Zach LaVine stuff happening makes this all more likely is because it makes it more incentivizing for other teams to get involved in deals like this. Everybody wants a little piece of something at the trade market, and unless you're a San Antonio or an Oklahoma City or maybe a Detroit right now, teams that are either young and rebuilding or playing at an elite championship level already, you're going to want to make moves at the trade deadline. It seems like there are a lot of teams that are interested in shaking things up, and the analyst wasn't very surprised because this is the time of year where major moves happen, and teams are trying to get to that next level to compete for championships. A fun fact the analyst saw on Twitter that's absolutely bonkers. Steph Curry has more career three-pointers made than free throws made in his entire career. The analyst was asking, do you understand how ridiculous that statistical accomplishment is? He doesn't know the exact numbers on how many other players in NBA history have achieved this, but he'd imagine it would not be very many at all. It's simply ridiculous, and one of the most incredible and mind-blowing stats he's seen in some time. And it just continues to prove why Steph is such an ethical hooper, and the ways this guy continues to blow minds each and every day with his shooting ability. It's absolutely ridiculous what Steph does on the basketball court night after night, and it's more reasoning to understand why this guy deserves to have more success in his career, and why this Warriors team is deserving of getting some roster upgrades. Steph certainly deserves it, which is why it's time to make a trade for a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. or a guy like Michael Porter Jr. to give him legitimate help in these final elite years of his prime. More reporting came out that the Warriors and Pistons continue to be mentioned as the strong favorites to trade for Michael Porter Jr. from Brooklyn. The Nets will be able to fetch at least a first-round pick and a top prospect in any deal involving Porter, according to league sources. Porter is viewed as the best available wing in the marketplace right now, which makes sense, because if you haven't seen what he's been putting up lately, Michael Porter Jr. has been absolutely shooting the lights out. They call him Michael the Possession Ends Here Porter Jr., which is probably a top 5 NBA nickname of all time. That's probably a little bit of hyperbole, but it's genuinely hilarious and accurate. This just reinforces what everyone thought before, that these deals are continuing to move forward behind the scenes and are probably going to happen very soon, potentially within the next week or two as we approach the February 5th trade deadline. Then they circled back one more time to the leaked locker room footage showing Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry in that heated argument, and the Sports Center anchors were speculating about what could have possibly caused such an intense exchange between the two stars. Was it frustration over offensive roles and ball distribution? Is Butler unhappy with how Curry-centric the offense still is? Is Steph frustrated with Butler's defensive effort or shot selection? Is it about accountability from role players or coaching decision? The lack of full audio and complete context makes it impossible to know exactly what triggered this argument. But the very fact that this footage leaked to national media suggests there are serious problems brewing inside the Warriors organization. Whether that means making trades to shake up the roster, evaluating the coaching staff, or even considering major changes to the core, something clearly needs to change based on the intensity shown in those leaked images. The analyst wrapped up by asking, "What are your thoughts on a potential Jaren Jackson Jr. deal?" It interests him for sure, and there have been times Triple J has played against the Warriors when he thought, this feels like a no-brainer acquisition, but he's not entirely sure if there's a whole lot of mutual interest there from both sides. We'll figure that out over the next couple of days, certainly, especially once the Ja Morant deal is finalized and things start moving forward quickly. These domino effects are going to take place rapidly over the next week or two. What really struck me watching this entire Sports Center segment was how they masterfully wove together the dramatic leaked Butler-Curry footage with incredibly detailed analysis of how the entire NBA trade market is interconnected. The leaked locker room images obviously grabbed everyone's attention and got people watching, but then they pivoted seamlessly into substantive basketball analysis about roster construction, defensive pairings, statistical breakdowns, and multi-team trade scenarios that was genuinely informative, rather than just speculative drama for drama's sake. The Jaren Jackson Jr. fit alongside Draymond Green was particularly interesting to think about because, on paper, that front-court pairing would be absolutely elite defensively, while providing enough shooting and scoring to keep defenses honest. The concern would be Jackson's rebounding numbers being down and whether he'd be motivated in a new situation. But playing meaningful basketball in Golden State's system alongside Curry would presumably unlock the best version of him we saw during his All-Star campaign. So what do you guys think? Are the leaked images of Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry arguing in the locker room a sign of genuine chemistry problems that might require major roster changes, or just competitive frustration between two winners that got blown out of proportion? And should the Warriors prioritize Jaren Jackson Jr. over Michael Porter Jr. if the Ja Morant domino falls and Triple J becomes available? Or is MPJ still the better fit for what they need? Let me know in the comments, because after watching Sports Center break down every angle from the locker room drama to the interconnected trade scenarios to the specific fits of both potential targets, I'm convinced the next 2 weeks before the trade deadline will completely reshape the Warriors' championship odds one way or another.